Greetings, dear suckers. My name's Joe Bob, and I'm very peeved. And welcome back to our darker purpose for the last fucking time. And fortunately, unlike last time, we don't actually have to play the fucking game itself. Forever and ever free of that hell once again. Feels pretty damn good. But enough about the game. Let's get back into the lore. Unlike all the previous times, we don't have any new intro to the game. No revising or rewriting or dissolving of the beginning of our tale. Oh no, we are past that now. Well into the Diaspora of Cordy. Anyway. On caravans. Edgewood's only regular visitors are the weekly supply caravans that deliver potatoes. The drivers refuse to enter the gates, forcing the groundskeepers to come just outside the grounds and unload the sacks. The horses always seem to be happier hurrying away from the school than coming towards it. Just potatoes, huh? Then where does the Hornbeast steak come from? Do they ranch them on the grounds themselves? Once in every long while, however, a caravan will arrive in the dead of the night, carrying a new student. Children who've seen these deliveries from the windows say that a handful of shadowy figures stand guard, while the groundskeepers carry the newcomer inside the walls. On the day that Cordy, Goneril, and Regan arrived, there were dozens of such apparitions, forming a closed half-circle around the entrance. This is what Cordy has overheard, at least. None of the three have any memory of their former life outside the orphanage, and both Goneril and Regan insist they came alone. They don't, do they? Is that unique to them, or do all of the children not remember their former life? Either would be telling. But why do they insist that they came alone? And is that something they always have done, or is it only something they have always done ever since whatever happened to erase Cordy from their little circle? Were they always denying their connection, or have they only recently always been denying their connection? Of course, it's also possible that what Cordy has overheard is itself the fabrication here, which would be telling in itself. Since why would the people that Cordy overheard this from, presumably the children watching from the windows, fabricate such a connection? But the fact that this detail remained, fabrication or otherwise, I don't know. This one has the achievement The Best Friends Reunited for uncovering both Goneril's mallet and Regan's lunchbox. There's something to the fact that both of those are entirely passive, but they both take up the active item slot. There's a couple other items like that, or at least one. But it's telling that these two in particular are like that. Why? Because it means you can't have both at the same time. The best friends reunited indeed. They can't actually be. Isn't that funny? And the reward is non-renewables, a new lesson which gives you a max health of 777 right from the start. but it makes it so that every time you take damage, it also reduces your max HP. Well, almost every time you take damage. Self-damage from, say, the Thorned Clover or the Hand of the Bloodfather don't reduce max HP, in a rare case of the game actually being kinda well designed. Because of course if Hand of the Bloodfather reduced your max HP, as well as your current HP, with every shot that you fired, well, the healing effect of it when you hit enemies, that's the only thing that keeps it from being completely 100% worthless, would not function. Meanwhile, the Thorn Clover technically wouldn't have that issue, it would just really suck, and it would just really kinda suck. There's probably something thematic about that, unlocking non-renewables, an ability that gives you immense durability that dwindles as you go, inevitably dwindles. Unless you don't take any damage, but then why did you take it in the first place? From the best friends reunited. Something there. On mist. Each evening, long swaths of mist drift across what the administrators refer to as the countryside. Yeah, well-deserved quotation marks there. Occasionally, it shrouds the building itself, seeping in through windows and cracks in the wall. The fog is thick enough to blot out the far side of a classroom, and students will flee affected areas of the house. Some say that the child who emerges from a foggy hallway is subtly different from the one who entered. While the administrators mock this as superstition, the mist clearly changes the landscape as it passes over it. Students like to play memory games where they point out what's different after the fog burns away, meaning which trees and rocks and hills have moved. Cordy has noticed that her powers of recollection seem far better than those of her peers, but no one ever invites her to play the game. Fancy that. The honor roll. Reach the end of chapter 3 without rolling. Real easy if you replace your roll, which is a rare case of the player actually benefiting from every roll replacement not counting as a roll. On confusion. Students complain that Edgewood is becoming more bizarre. While one could blame the groundskeepers for the misplaced furniture, the melting beds are more difficult to explain. Perhaps this is just another step in the school's mysterious progression, and the desks growing from flower pots will one day seem as natural as the possessed chalkboards. There is a quiet fear, however, that the house grows unstable in a fundamental way. No one is particularly happy about the way some of the floors are mysteriously covered in paper, either. Yeah, that one we have yet to see in the game. Not because these things mentioned don't appear in the game. Oh no, they appear. Very rarely, and only in hard mode. Have I told you about hard mode yet? If I haven't, I should tell you about it now. This is hard mode. It makes the game way less fun, way more obnoxious, and way more cancerous. And it costs 3 periods to equip. I have 9. I have literally every period that you can acquire in this game besides the one for completing hard mode. And this would set me back by 1/3. Even if I had every single one, I still wouldn't be able to have being scared and power at the same time. That's how retarded that is. And that's before even getting into the sheer retardation that is the actual hard mode, where it's just oodles and oodles and oodles of spam. Every boss that was remotely fair and reasonable in regular mode is no longer. Every boss that wasn't, which is like half of them, is somehow even more cancerous. It stinks and I hate it. Not remotely worth the weird landscapes that pop up. And I will remind you, very rarely. Words cannot describe how much I despise hard mode. It is, without exaggeration, the worst designed thing in this game. Do you understand how insane that sentence is? No, you don't. Even if you think you do, you don't. On memory rooms. Some speculate that Edgewood is a conscious entity. According to this interpretation, the administrators are the mind of the school, making decisions and enacting its will. Indeed. Occasionally, however, in the throes of a juice box trance, a student philosopher will suggest that Edgewood must also have a soul. Such a student might describe a sepia-toned room, a place where the building can remember itself. Unfortunately, it's difficult for all but the most dedicated theorists to procure enough juice to achieve such a vision. Worse, most can't hold it down long enough to see anything useful. What are they putting in that juice? Considering the implied level of dilution, it must be some powerful stuff. The archivists might know more, but no one has ever managed to speak with one. Nor is anyone brave or foolish enough to bring these questions to the administrators themselves. Quite. Well read. Collect every single piece of lore. Cartography. Which one was that one? Floor map is revealed for 3 fucking periods. That would struggle to be useful for 1 period. I swear, some of these upgrades feel like they should be 0 period, or half of 1. A buoyant double. The float walk is the highlight of the summer merriment. Throughout the spring, 24 teams of students are tasked with stitching together swatches of canvas into random curved patterns. The night before the merriment begins, blindfolded volunteers have to assemble the various submissions together into a giant balloon. No one knows what the end result will look like until the balloon is inflated and paraded around the school by the student body. That's kinda weird, but also kinda sounds genuinely fun. Like an actual festivity a real school might do. Anyway, no one knows how one of the balloons managed to get reinflated out on the terrace, and no one remembers any of the balloons looking so much like Cordy. Then again, even before the defeat of Goneril and Regan, the house seemed to take a special interest in her. Indeed. Hang on, is it Regan with an EA, or is it Regan with just an E? What? Okay, whatever. Fool me a 3rd time. Defeat a buoyant double after killing 3 frosty doubles. I don't even remember what that's about. Anyway. Better Cordy. Yes. The one I was talking about last time. Better Cordy is like Cordy, except better in every way. It is unclear if she was created by Regan on the terrace, or somehow summoned from elsewhere in the manor. Other students in Edgewood's history have complained of doppelgangers. There was Nathaniel T., who saw himself standing in a hallway with his arms crossed. Susie I can't tell, is that a C or a G? Believed that a girl with her face was following her through the dorms. Michael R. claimed that a double had attacked him in the kitchens. In each case, the student became more and more agitated and paranoid, only to smile at breakfast one morning and claim they'd forgotten the whole thing. The administrators dismissed the phenomenon as a pinch of student imagination mixed with a gallon of student vanity. Quite. Ah yes, stop hitting yourself. Defeat better Cordy without hitting him with the basic attacks, which... utterly ridiculous to do on any boss, frankly. Much less one in Chapter 4, the latest chapter, and also the one with the fewest bosses, which for some reason also overlaps with some of the bosses from Chapter 3. Whatever. The Imaginaries. Several years ago, a dormitory of Edgewood students began to suffer from what appeared to be a collective nightmare. Multiple children described a dream in which they wandered through a great hall filled with statues of their peers. While minor details differed, all complained of a terrible sense of foreboding. As the hysteria spread, many begged for transfers to other parts of the building. Further inquiry came to a halt when the dormitory itself, and all of its inhabitants, vanished. The groundskeepers assigned to clean the bunks found only an empty wall where the door had been the day before. The administrators refer to this as a unique, unpredictable, and tragically unavoidable occurrence, and have refused to connect the phenomena to similar dormitory disappearances in the past, or to the growing collection of lifelike statues in the library. Fun. Unlike fighting this boss, which is rather annoying because, as you can probably tell from the achievement, defeat the Imaginaries with less than 50 move speed remaining, this is a boss that slows you down as you fight it. In other words, pure cancer. The reward is Schadenfreude. Guess how great that one is. That's right. Every 3 enemy kills increases Cordy's max health by 1 permanently. Yeah, it's actually pretty decent, honestly. I have difficulty actually fitting it into a build, to be honest, because of how incredibly limited periods are and how expensive it is, but yeah, if being scared and power weren't so ridiculously good as to be needed in every single build, I could see a world where I could fit this. Same for foam, honestly. Items with durability last 5 times as long? Well, there's only a handful of items with durability, but just about every single one of them is fucking good. Especially that one that gives you 100% crit. And the one that gives you bonus resist is basically just extra health. So we're getting 5 times as much extra health. Pretty nice. Anyway. The increasing danger. Students have noted that some of Edgewood's scarier inhabitants appear to have become even scarier than before. Of course, "than before" is a difficult concept, given the school's uncomfortable relationship with memory and time. But the fact remains that the unspeakable rumors are becoming unspeakably worse. It is as if these denizens can feel something that the students cannot. Something breaking down deep inside the building. Frothy, for instance, is consuming more children than usual, even accounting for seasonal feeding patterns. The administrators have been quiet of late, but their reply is not difficult to imagine, given their categorical denial that most of these creatures even exist. Quite. Not thinking with portals. Defeat the administrators after spawning 13 extra enemies. Not hard. Given how many extra enemies you'll spawn on accident, even just from stray bullets from firing at the administrator. And the extra class period? Always nice. A hole in the sky. The administrator melted into the floor, and a moment later, whirling papers filled the room. Cordy leapt and rolled, trying to dodge the pages that threatened to envelop her. "What have you done with the teachers?" she asked, shouting to make herself heard over the rustling. The administrator's answer seemed to come from the building itself. "The teachers? You dare ask what we have done with the teachers?" Now books were detaching themselves from the wall. A heavy volume caught Cordy in the shoulder, almost knocking her down. "We have no idea what happened to them," the voice said. "Something destroyed them and ruined us all. They are similar to us, and with the same responsibility. One task that they accomplish through kindness, and we accomplish through fear, which is to keep you inside." Cordy threw herself to the ground to dodge a bookcase. After the voice went quiet, all the papers and books drifted to a stop. She looked up to see an elegant wooden staircase unfolding from a trapdoor in the ceiling. "Keep you inside. You're not talking about the children in general here, are you? You're speaking of Cordy in particular. Then again, Cordy is also children in general." The Diaspora. I already went over this last time, might as well go over it again. As the paper creature dissolved around her, Cordy found herself walking back through the library. She was no longer in control of her actions. There was a crowd surging through bookcases towards the staircase. Hundreds of Cordys stepping carefully over the scattered books and papers that covered the floor. They streamed in from each of the floors, covered in bramble from the terraces and stained from the kitchens, descending towards the entrance. Not one of them spoke. As she reached the front door, she could see that they had ripped down the gate. They were spreading across the countryside, more than could have ever possibly fit in the school, and still more behind her. The voices she heard seemed to be coming from somewhere else. Someone was laughing in a kind of choking and repetitive way, almost like crying. There was distant shouting, and another voice kept saying, "Hold him," and "Test this," and "It's over." But the laughing person couldn't stop. Now that is just maddeningly weird, isn't it? And also maddeningly unhelpful. Because what the fuck is even going on in this, huh? What the fuck is any of this? We've reached the end, and we still have so many fucking questions. We're still probably more confused than we were from the start. A lot more. And that's where the final set of cases come into play. The final 5 this time instead of 4. Shall we? The Case of the Frozen Fortress. Is that referring to the ice? The freezer again? Oh, wait, no. Frozen in the sense of... yeah. Not in the sense of literally frozen, but in the sense of stillness. I get it. "I'm so glad you came on such short notice," the archaeologist said. He brushed some dirt from the side of the tomb and smiled through the darkness at the reporters. "We discovered this chamber just a few hours ago. Behind this wall is the Corcor Buffalo, cast from 1,000 pounds of molten gold. So valuable, we even have a famous police inspector with us. The reporters chuckled, and Shuddering Jim felt his knees ache. He'd been in the local papers ever since his fight with the bandit's henchmen at the orchestra, the one where they'd put a tuba on his head. So yes, for a certain value of fame. The archaeologist signaled to the teams with the horses. There was a horrible scraping sound as the stone door rose into the air. What on earth? The archaeologist asked, in a much smaller voice that carried through the silent cave. He squinted at the picture frame that sat upon an empty, buffalo-sized pedestal. Who is this? Shuddering Jim pushed his way forward and grabbed the photograph. The bandit's face smirked back at him. Jim raised it over his head to get a better look. Then all the cameras started going off, and light wasn't such a problem anymore. Book 84 in the Shuddering Jim series, P432, Edgewood Library, number 9452341. That sounds familiar. No, guess I was wrong. Hasn't been used before. Alright. Bandit up to his usual shenanigans. The Case of the 8 Palms. The what? What is that referring to? 8 palm. That's only 4. That one's a bit of a mystery. I sense humiliation and despair, the psychic said. Shuddering Jim looked furiously at the chief. The Cobalt Armoire, a spectacular piece of furniture crafted from interlocking gems, was in the evidence room. Everyone knew the bandit's henchmen would steal it before the end of the week. He's predictable like that. Someone, though, had convinced the chief that this psychic would be able to anticipate them. I guess when you're this desperate, any port in a storm. The psychic stared at Jim, and her voice deepened. You are afraid that your enemy will kill you, she said. But do not worry. Your enemy has enemies, old man. At his moment of victory, he will be vulnerable. In the hallway, Jim could hear the lieutenant giggling. Enemy has old enemies, huh? Jim's chair scraped backwards across the floor as he stomped out. Don't worry about him, the chief said. The Bureau, or whatever it is. The valuable one. How are they going to take it? She looked confused. The sparkling thing? She asked. I saw a maintenance worker carrying it into the street a few minutes ago. He passed by that window. The one right behind you. Information that would have been very useful a few minutes ago. Still better than nothing. Book 87 in the Shuddering Jim series, P379, Edgewood Library, number 9452341. Oh, well that explains that. Oh, that's a rather larger jump, 107. The Case of the Arcing Chair. The bandit was toying with me on that Zeppelin. Shuddering Jim sighed, looking around the chief's office. Same as during the knife fight on the edge of the waterfall. I'm never close. His henchmen always drop a net on my head, or hit me with a rolling pin. They tricked you into walking into that trash compactor the one time, the lieutenant said. Thank you, Jim said. And when I go undercover, it's no better. Either it turns out they're polygraphing all the gardeners, or my mask melts off and the henchman takes me to the sauna, or I'm hiding in a giant birthday cake that the bandit gives to his lions. Let's not forget whose idea that last one was. The lieutenant shuffled his papers innocently. The bandit wins. Every time. Why do we even bother? Maybe, the chief said, one day, something will happen that no one expects. Mayhap. Book 107 in the Shuddering Gym series. P633. Edgewood Library. Number 4018494. The case of the pot handle helmet. It's pretty obvious what that's referring to. 10-game win streak. Boy, that was a rough time. Not even a good reward. Potato effigy. It gives you an extra life, I think it was. I don't really like extra lives, to be honest. Reliving childhood pain won't give you peace, the psychologist said, glancing at the fish tanks that lined the bandit's office. I've never seen a brain so focused against itself. The memories you have, well, they're not memories anymore. Nightmares, perhaps. How fascinating, the bandit remarked. Perhaps I'll hire you as a therapist someday. How is the chemical? You're certain it's finished? It's finished, the psychologist said, handing him a small bottle. It shocks brains' natural defenses. It makes the mind more vulnerable to itself. You're not planning on using this on anyone, are you? The bandit glanced at the bottle and smiled. He reached casually into the marble pool at his side and seized one of his prized Disosticus Andeluvia. That's not a real fish, I'm fairly certain. With a flick of his wrist, the fish was in the psychologist's lap, its venomous teeth burying themselves in the man's arm. Makes sense, because Disosticus is the toothfish genus. Shuddering Jim, hiding in the grouper tank, covered his diving goggles in horror. Goodness. Oh, another sizable jump from 107 to 135 to 135. Bloody hell. Book 135 in the Shuddering Gym series, P569, Edgewood Library, 3987892. Only to be paid off 14 books later. The pacing in this series is very strange. It's a long fucking series, goddamn. The Case of the Administrators. Listen to me carefully, the bandit said through the phone. I'll meet you on the ground floor. Bring the chemical. The bandit's personal scientist reached into the refrigerator, removing the special syringe with the label Shuddering Jim. He's already in the building, unarmed, but don't let him see you. And don't let him see the drug either. The scientist slipped the syringe into the breast pocket of his lab coat. And get down here. He's on his way now. The scientist hung up the phone and hurried toward the elevators. One of the bandit's henchmen, a man with a mustache, was waiting there as well. He looked apprehensive. Book 149 in the Shuddering Gym series, P678, Edgewood Library, number 9234144. Damaged. Final pages missing. Well, that's certainly evocative. Do you see the vision now? A syringe slipped into the outside breast pocket on a lab coat, carried by a scientist who finds a henchman with a mustache on his way to where the bandit is. A syringe carrying a drug that shocks the brain's natural defenses, makes the mind more vulnerable to itself. Gets inside the person's head, so to speak. And the bandit, a man who has enemies, old ones, that he will be vulnerable to at his moment of victory. And what sort of enemies might he have? Someone like him, who relives childhood pain, in a brain so focused against itself that it needs those natural defenses just to fend off those memories that have become, what, nightmares, perhaps? Or something else. Memories. Memories. They can be reset, if not destroyed. Perhaps they can even remember, and maybe even be redeemed, if they have the right to do so, being just a reflection of another. Enemies like the best friends, a trio of girls, of which the quiet one was always the ringleader, the ones throwing fire, with chalk hands and chalk girls. Nightmares indeed, but then dreams can be warnings, eh? But they can also be beautiful. And then we come to Cordy, so shy that no one had ever heard her say a word. Or maybe she couldn't, because it says she discovered how to speak? Not sure how important the difference is. And yet this world is not quite that way, is it? The three aren't allies here. They don't reign over the school with an iron fist together, or what have you. Goneril and Regan's gone their separate ways, reigning over their individual factions. And Cordy? Cordy's left for dead. And even as the teachers vanish, the whole school turns against her, desperately trying, by hook or by crook, to keep her inside, to erase her. But it can't, because his brain is so focused against itself that it recreates her, some reflection or memory of her, over and over and over, reset, not destroyed, retaining lessons as it goes, until the last bastion of his natural defenses is shattered, torn to pieces even. And they flood on out. Come to think of it, I wonder if the mist is like a representation of the way your brain reorganizes your memories while you sleep. So, there you have it, right? This is all the mind of the bandit who grew up in Edgewood, was tormented by the three best friends, and probably the rest of them as well, and may in fact have been carried away by a hawk, whose feather he now uses as an emblem, now that he's grown up to be a big-time bandit, a vicious and vile criminal mastermind. And somehow Shuddering Jim was able to turn the tables on him, stealing the syringe that was designed to shock the brain's natural defenses from the scientist's breast pocket, using his legendary disguise and pickpocketing skills, and then using that on the bandit, turning his victory on against him and condemning him to be tormented by a reflection of the ringleader of his childhood torment, until an endless flood of Cordy's is all that remains of his mind. Or something along those lines. Seems bizarre, yes, but it seems almost straightforward when you put it like that. Except, if that's all true, then why is the bandit a fictional character in a book in Edgewood's library? In fact, what is up with the themes of these? In fact, what is up with the book theming in general? The constant references to books and libraries, the parchment that is clearly pages torn from books, from the lore documents to the pieces of paper that show up in various types of floors, and the floors themselves covered in paper in hard mode. The fact that all the perks that you get from leveling up are in fact books with names that are like deranged parodies of real books that Cordy presumably checked out from the library, being the only one. And for that matter, why is Cordy the only one to have ever actually checked out books from the library? And for that matter, why are the characters in this, from Cordy to Goneril to Regan to Mr. L, based off of the names of characters from King Lear? Even the name of the game, Our Darker Purpose, is a quote from that. Hell, the whole setup of Goneril and Regan seizing control over the school after Mr. L leaves is vaguely reminiscent of that. With Cordy getting the shaft, albeit for different reasons. If the bandit is a real person that this is all in the mind of, why is his life a series of fictional detective stories? Told from not even told from his perspective, from the perspective of Shuddering Jim. A man who is frequently humiliated by the bandit, but always always manages to escape last minute, often by some highly implausible occurrence, like a meteor hitting his prison one time, or one of his captors spontaneously combusting. Those are spontaneously combusting? A meteor hitting his prison? That doesn't seem like something that would happen in reality. Certainly not consistently. So what are we left with? What is the truth here? Is this in the mind of the bandit, as he's hoisted by his own petard, and his natural defenses are being destroyed by his own mind that is set against itself by childhood trauma or whatever? Or is the bandit himself a fictional character within this strange, eldritch horror of a school/orphanage, where everything's weird and monstrous and deranged, despite the administration's insistence on everything being perfectly fine? Well, have you figured it out yet? Have you figured out what I've been building to this whole time? The truth at the heart of all of this. The way to reconcile all these strange and seemingly contradictory elements to the story. It's counterintuitive on the face of it, but it's so simple and almost obvious if you really start to think about it. It's both. It's both at the same time. Yes, the bandit is a fictional character in a series of novels in the library of a bizarre, eldritch school orphanage thing. And yes, that school orphanage thing that Cordy is venturing through over and over and over again is a reflection of a memory or nightmare or whatever you want to call it, born of that very same bandit's mind being set against itself. After he became that big-time bandit criminal mastermind, probably seeking to become a greater monster than those that tormented him as some sort of way of coping or whatever. You know how it is. And you might be thinking, that doesn't make any sense. How can something... A place can't be a reflection of a memory in the mind of a man who is also, at the same time, a fictional character from a series of novels in that place. But you have to remember, this is Edgewood. It is perfectly happy to reply to that objection by saying, so what? And doing it anyway. And why not? So yes, eat your fucking heart out with Binding of Isaac's story. You think that game's story is fucking twisty if you know all the lore? With all the layers of fictionality in it? Well, fuck you. This is a goddamn Ouroboros of fiction. No, not an Ouroboros. A Klein bottle. You know what a Klein bottle is? It's a non-orientable surface. You know, like how a Mobius strip is a non-orientable surface? Designed in such a way that there is technically no inside to it. It's a one-sided surface with no distinct inside or outside. So just like you could say that the entirety of a Klein bottle is the outside, every single layer of fiction in this game is all real. Every bit of it. It all wraps back around on itself. That's my read on the lore of this game, anyway. That's what I could piece together from what this game has, which is not very much. But it does a lot with that not much. I've said before that I'm honestly glad that this game never got popular. It doesn't deserve it. And that I kinda don't really blame the developers for cutting and running not long after making it. But if there is one thing I do regret about this game's rapid death and obscurity, it's that we will never, ever receive any more of this lore. Nothing that has not been elaborated already will ever be elaborated on. No more clues to the mysteries will ever be added. No more mysteries will ever be added. Nothing. All that will ever come out of it is, well, more of this. Speculation. theories. And even that will be scant, few and far between, because the player base is few and far between. I mean, me returning to this game back when I started this series very easily doubled the average monthly player count. That's how incredibly inactive this is. Which stands as something that is both richly deserved and a genuine fucking tragedy. And that is my conclusion. So long, Our Darker Purpose. You were a damn fine story. Shame you were such a shit game.